After all our years of marriage, everything changed last Thursday. Margaret sat across from me at our kitchen table and said, "Robert, I think it's best if you don't come to the cottage this Christmas." I felt something inside me break. "What do you mean, don't come?" I asked, putting down my coffee. She wouldn't look at me. "The kids think it might be easier if you stayed home this year. You've been difficult lately." That word, difficult, hung in the air like smoke. Difficult how? I asked. She spoke in that tone she started using about a year ago, patient but tired, like she was explaining something to a slow child. "At Thanksgiving, you argued with Trevor about his business. At Emma's birthday, you made that comment about her boyfriend's tattoos. They're tired of walking on eggshells." Trevor, our son, 41, divorced, working in marketing. Emma, 38, our daughter, a social worker. Good kids. I thought we raised them well. "I was just talking," I said. Trevor asked for my opinion. "You called his idea impractical," she replied. "It was impractical. He wants to quit a stable job to start a cryptocurrency podcast," I said. I was being honest. Margaret sighed, that same disappointed sigh I've been hearing a lot. "That's exactly what I mean, Robert. You can't just be supportive. Everything has to be your way, your opinion, your judgment." I looked at the woman I've loved since 1979. We met at the University of Toronto, married young, built a life, raised 3 kids, bought a home in North York, and worked hard. I spent 35 years as a civil engineer for the city. I was good at it, and I was proud of it. "So that's it?" I asked. "After 43 years, I'm uninvited from Christmas." "It's not forever," she said. "Just this year." "Give everyone some space," she said. She reached across the table like she might take my hand, then stopped. "Maybe you could spend Christmas with your brother." My brother Paul lived in Vancouver. We talked maybe twice a year. "Right," I said. That night, I lay awake while Margaret slept beside me. The house was quiet, too quiet. I thought about all the Christmases at the cottage, the tradition we started when Trevor was 5. The snow, the fireplace, Margaret's tortilla, the kids opening presents, the grandkids running around in recent years. And now I was being removed from it, like I didn't belong anymore. The next morning, Margaret had already left for her book club. There was a note on the counter, "Didn't want to wake you." There's coffee. I spent most of the day in my basement workshop. I'd been spending more time down there lately. It was the only place that still felt like mine. The rest of the house had slowly become Margaret's world, her decorations, her style, her rules. But the basement was different. It was messy, full of my tools and projects, my way of thinking. I'd been working on something for 8 months. No one in the family knew. They probably wouldn't care if they did. To them, I was just old Robert hiding from life. But this project was real to me, more real than anything I'd done in years. It started after conversation with a former colleague, David Chen, at a retirement party in March. David left the city and went into consulting, helping tech startups with infrastructure projects. Over drinks, he said something that stayed with me. The biggest problem in modern construction is coordination. Architects, engineers, contractors, suppliers, they all use different systems and software. Half the delays and extra costs come from miscommunication. I nodded. I knew he was right. I'd seen it for decades. Someone needs to build a universal platform, David said. Something that could translate between all those different systems in real time, maybe AI-driven. It could save billions across the industry. David said it casually, then moved on to complaining about his golf game. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, because I knew something David didn't. Something almost nobody knew. Back in the 90s, when I worked on the Shepherd subway line, I created a coordination system. It wasn't high-tech, just a method for standardizing communication between contractors. It worked so well they used it for years, but it was analog, paper-based, and limited. The city owned it, and eventually it was forgotten as technology moved forward. But I still remembered the principles, the structure, the framework. I had always wondered how to modernize it. After that conversation with David, I started working seriously. Not just planning, but building. I taught myself Python, studied machine learning, and read everything I could about new construction technology. Margaret thought I was wasting time online. The kids joked about Grandpa learning to code. But I was actually building something, a platform, an algorithm, a real solution to the exact problem David mentioned. By November, I had a working prototype. It didn't look perfect, but it functioned. I tested it on old project data I still had, and the results were impressive. It could reduce coordination time by up to 60%, cut costs by 40%, and catch errors before they turned into expensive problems. I showed it to David over coffee. Remember that conversation we had? I've been working on something. He stared at my laptop for 5 minutes without speaking. Then he looked up, really seeing me. Robert, do you understand what this is? A coordination platform, I said. No, he answered, shaking his head. This is a billion-dollar idea. This could change the industry. How long have you been working on this? 8 months, more or less, I said. He laughed, but not like it was funny, more like he couldn't believe it. You built this in 8 months by yourself. It's not that complicated, I said. The core principles were solid. I just needed to update them. David leaned back. Robert, I know people, venture capitalists, tech investors. Can I show this to them? I shrugged. My family already thought I was outdated. What did I have to lose? Sure, I said. Go ahead. That was 3 weeks ago. David moved quickly. He connected me with a firm called Apex Ventures in Toronto. They specialize in construction technology, and they were very interested. Extremely interested. We had meetings. They asked technical questions, business questions, market questions. I answered every question they asked. I had 35 years of experience, and I understood the industry better than people half my age. They wanted to move forward. They wanted to invest. More than that, they wanted to buy the technology completely. They offered to purchase the platform, hire me as chief technical advisor, and speed up development. The amount of money they offered made my head spin. 7 figures for the buyout, with more depending on how well the platform performed. I didn't tell Margaret. I didn't tell the kids. What would I even say? Remember how you think I'm difficult and out of touch? Well, I just created something that could change the entire industry. They would think I was imagining things. So I stayed quiet. I worked with the lawyers, signed the contracts, and set up the deal. It would be finalized and announced on December 26th, Boxing Day. The timing felt almost poetic. Christmas came. Margaret left for the cottage on the 23rd with luggage for both of us, even though I wasn't coming. Just in case you change your mind, she said. But we both knew I wouldn't. I wasn't going to show up where I wasn't wanted. Trevor called on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, Dad. Merry Christmas, son. You doing okay? Mom said you decided not to come. Decided. That was one way to say it. I'm fine. Enjoy the cottage. Yeah, maybe next year, right? Maybe. After the call, I sat in the living room with a glass of scotch. The house was decorated. Margaret insisted on the tree and lights, even though I would be spending Christmas alone. It looked like a museum display, Traditional Canadian Christmas, 2024. I expected to feel angry, but I didn't. I wasn't bitter or resentful. I felt strangely calm. For the first time in months, nobody was disappointed in me. Nobody was sighing when I talked or exchanging looks when I shared an opinion. It was just me and the quiet house. I spent Christmas Day in the basement working on the platform, making sure every detail was perfect before the deal closed. Around noon, I made a turkey and cranberry sandwich, Tradition still mattered, even if family didn't. At 12:12 a.m., right as Christmas became Boxing Day, my phone rang. Trevor. Dad. His voice was shaking. What's going on? Are you okay? What do you mean? I asked. Your name is on the news. CBC just sent a notification. It says, Robert William Harrison, Toronto civil engineer, has sold groundbreaking construction technology platform to Apex Ventures for, he stopped. Dad, it says $8.5 million. I sat down. I knew the announcement was coming, but I didn't know it would go public instantly. Midnight on Boxing Day, they had said, and they meant it. Oh, I replied. Trevor's voice cracked. Dad, is this real? It's real, I said. You sold something for $8.5 million. Trevor asked. Initial buyout, I said. There's more if the performance goals are met. It could reach $20 million over 5 years. Silence. Then, I need to call you back. He hung up. 30 seconds later, Emma called. Then Margaret. Then Trevor again. My phone didn't stop ringing for an hour. I let most of the calls go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to talk yet. The next morning, I woke up to 47 text messages, 12 voicemails, and 6 emails. Most were from family. Some were from old co-workers who saw the news. A few were from reporters asking for interviews. Margaret came home that afternoon. She walked in without knocking. Technically, she had left me here alone, but she still acted like everything was normal. Robert, she said, standing in the doorway. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? I asked. Don't play games. The technology, the deal, all of it. I looked at her closely. She was wearing the sweater I bought her last Christmas, the one she thanked me for and never wore until now. Would you have been interested? I asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. That's not fair, she said. Isn't it? I answered. When was the last time anyone in this family asked what I was working on? When was the last time anyone cared about my opinion, unless it was to tell me I was wrong? You could have said something, she insisted. I did, I replied. I said plenty. I had ideas, thoughts, experience. But everyone, including you, made it clear none of that mattered anymore. Margaret sat down. She looked exhausted. The kids feel awful, she said softly. I'm sure they do. Trevor is devastated. He says he didn't know you were working on something so important. He wouldn't have cared even if he did. 8 months ago, when I said I was learning to code, he laughed. He joked about teaching an old dog new tricks. He didn't mean it. Yes, he did. Emma joked too. And you, Margaret, you told people at your book club that I was having a late life crisis, that I was playing on the computer instead of accepting retirement. She flinched. Who told you that? Linda Morrison. She thought I should know. She also thought it was cruel. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Not loud crying, just quiet tears running down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what specifically? For not listening. For not taking you seriously. For assuming you were just stuck. For thinking you were my old, stubborn husband who couldn't adjust to the world now. I am old, I said, and stubborn, but I'm not useless. I'm not done. No, she said quietly. You're not. We sat in silence. Finally, she asked, what happens now? With us? With all of this? I took a breath. I've been thinking about that. The deal closes today. Apex wants me to start consulting in January. They want me to help lead development and expand the platform. They talked about expansion, international markets, and partnerships with major construction firms. But Margaret shook her head. That's not what I meant. I know, I said. I looked at her. I think we need to talk, really talk, about the last few years, about how we ended up here, about whether we can fix this. Do you want to fix it? She asked. That was the real question. Did I want to go back to being the family member everyone tolerated but didn't respect? Did I want to spend whatever time I had left walking on eggshells, shrinking myself so others felt comfortable? I don't know, I said truthfully. I know I loved you for 43 years. I know we built a life together. But I don't know if I can go back to being the version of me you all wanted. We never wanted you to be someone else, she said. Yes, you did, I replied. You wanted me quieter, less opinionated, more agreeable. You wanted me to nod, smile, and stop having thoughts that didn't match everyone else's. She didn't argue. She couldn't. We both knew it was true. Trevor and Emma arrived that evening. They came together, which meant they planned it. They stood in the living room like teenagers caught doing something wrong. Dad, Trevor said, we owe you an apology. Multiple apologies, Emma added. I waited. Trevor continued, we treated you like you didn't matter, like your experience and knowledge didn't count, like your ideas were outdated. And we were wrong. Emma spoke next. What you built is amazing. I've been reading about it online. People are saying it could transform construction. One article called it the most innovative solution to come out of Canada in 10 years. I don't care what journalists say, I told them. Then what do you care about? Trevor asked. Respect, I said. Not because I made money, but because I'm your father. Because I've lived 67 years and learned things that matter. I want to be part of a family that values me for who I am, not who they wish I was. I want conversations where my opinions aren't dismissed just because I'm older or because I don't understand social media trends or because I remember the last time someone tried to pull a cryptocurrency scheme. The podcast wasn't all about cryptocurrency, Trevor muttered. It was about investment strategies. It was about cryptocurrency, I said. He smiled a little. Yeah, okay. It was mostly about cryptocurrency. Emma stepped closer. Dad, can we start over? Not erase the past, but try to do better. That depends, I said. Are you here because you respect me, or because I'm suddenly worth $8 million? I asked. Both, Trevor said honestly. Then, seeing my reaction, he added, yes, the money made us realize how wrong we were. But that doesn't mean we weren't already the problem. We were. And if it took this for us to finally see it, then I'm ashamed it had to happen, but I'm still grateful it woke us up. I appreciated the honesty. Here's what I need, I said. I need space. Time to think. Time to figure out what I want from the rest of my life, which might be another 20 years if I'm lucky. I'm not promising family dinners or cottage visits or pretending everything is fine when it isn't. That's fair, Emma said. And if we're going to rebuild this, I continued, it has to be real. Not fake politeness. Not guilt. Not because you're worried about inheritance. Trevor winced. We deserve that. Yes, I said. You do. They left after another hour of awkward conversation. They made promises and talked about trying harder, but I'd lived long enough to know that promises without action mean nothing. The weeks that followed felt unreal. News of the platform sale spread across the country. I got interview requests from business magazines, tech shows, and even someone from Dragon's Den asking if I wanted to appear as a guest advisor. I turned most of them down. I didn't want fame. I just wanted to work. Apex Ventures set me up with a small office at their Toronto headquarters. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. They hired 12 engineers to develop the platform further and asked me to guide the decisions. It was exciting. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I felt alive. I had purpose beyond being a husband, a father, or a retired engineer. I was building something again. Margaret and I started therapy in January. Surprisingly, it was her idea. Every Thursday, we sat in Dr. Kapoor's office trying to sort through 43 years of marriage, the good parts and the broken parts. When did you start feeling unheard? Dr. Kapoor asked me one evening. I thought for a moment. Slowly. Maybe 10 years ago. The kids were grown. Margaret got busy. My job was repetitive. I was still here, still learning, still changing, but everyone else treated me like I'd stopped growing. Like I was frozen in place. I became just Dad or Robert, someone predictable. Someone who never changed. And how did that feel? She asked. Like dying slowly. Like being erased one conversation at a time. Margaret cried quietly. She'd cried a lot in therapy. I didn't know, she whispered. I thought you were content. I thought you were fine. I used to think I was happy, but I realize now that being content isn't the same as feeling fulfilled. In February, Trevor came to me with a business idea. He said that if we combined his marketing skills with my platform, we could offer construction companies a full solution: project coordination, client communication, branding, everything. My first reaction was to say no. I wanted to protect what I built and avoid mixing business with family again. But then I reminded myself, actions matter more than intentions. So I told him, show me your proposal. It was impressive. He had researched the market, identified what companies were missing, and made real financial projections. It was more than an idea, it was a plan. We worked on it together for 3 months. During that time, I rediscovered who Trevor really was. Smart, creative, skilled. And for once, he listened, really listened, instead of waiting to speak. In May, we presented the plan to Apex. They loved it. They hired Trevor as a consultant, and by July, he was leading marketing for the platform's expansion into residential construction. Emma approached things differently. She asked if she could help by applying her social work background. She wanted to make sure our platform supported real communities, not just companies and profits. We built an advisory board to focus on community impact, and Emma became the head of it. Her ideas changed the way we worked, especially in residential neighborhoods. Even Margaret began learning. She enrolled in computer classes so she could understand the software I'd built in the basement. She didn't want to be a programmer, she just wanted to understand me. She started asking questions again. Real ones. The kind of questions that show interest, not obligation. By Christmas, 1 year after I spent the holiday alone, things had changed. Not perfectly, not magically, but in ways that mattered. We went to the cottage together as a family. Everyone came. Emma brought her boyfriend, the one with tattoos, who I learned was actually a paramedic and surprisingly one of the calmest, most reliable people I'd ever met. Trevor brought his new girlfriend, an architect who had heard about my platform and was interested in using it. On Christmas Eve, after dinner, Trevor asked me to step outside. We stood on the deck, looking at the snow-covered lake. Our breath was visible in the cold air. "Dad," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something." "All right," I replied. "Last Christmas, when Mom told you not to come, I was relieved. I thought it would be easier without you. Less tense, less complicated." He paused. "But it was the worst Christmas of my life." "Trevor," I started, but he interrupted. "No. Let me finish. It wasn't just that you weren't there. It's that we made you not be there." And the whole time I kept thinking about the Christmases before. Every moment I rolled my eyes, ignored your advice, acted like you were just something we had to tolerate, instead of a father who loved us. His voice broke. My son, 42 years old, crying on the cottage deck like the boy he used to be. "The platform is incredible," he said. "It changed everything for me. But that's not why I'm sorry. Even if you never built anything, even if you just stayed retired and tinkered with your projects, you still deserved better than how we treated you." I pulled him into a hug. He cried against my shoulder. "I forgive you," I said. "But even more than that, I'm proud of you. Proud that you're trying to be better. He took a shaky breath. Are you happy, Dad? After everything that's happened, are you happy now? I thought about it, the platform, the money, the attention, the family finally healing. All of it mattered. But the answer, deep down, was simpler than all of that. I'm not invisible anymore, I said. That's what makes me happy. From where I stood outside, I could see Margaret laughing with Emma through the cottage window. The Christmas tree lights reflected off the wine glasses. For a moment, the scene looked like something from a commercial. Perfect, warm, the picture of a happy family. But it wasn't perfect. It was real. It was messy. It was complicated. It was still healing from years of hurt. And somehow, that made it more precious than any picture-perfect moment ever could be. That was worth more than anything Apex Ventures could pay. More than the $8 million. More than headlines and interviews and success. Later that night, after everyone went to sleep, I sat alone by the fireplace with my laptop. I was working on a new idea, just a sketch of a project that might change everything again. Something that could transform how cities maintain infrastructure, predicting problems before they became disasters. I hadn't told anyone yet. Not because I felt ignored, but because this time, I didn't need anyone's approval to continue. Over the past year, I'd learned something important. I didn't need praise to know my work mattered. I didn't need permission to grow. I didn't need to shrink to make others comfortable. At 67, I wasn't done. I was just beginning. My phone buzzed. A message from David Chen. Saw the quarterly numbers. Your platform is exceeding every projection. You built something special, Robert. Merry Christmas. I smiled and put the phone down. The fire crackled softly. Snow fell outside the windows. Upstairs, my family slept peacefully. People who had once pushed me away but were now trying to pull me back in. This cottage, the place that almost lost me, held me now like open arms. I sat there thinking. Obsolete is a word people use for machines, not for human beings who refuse to stop learning. Not for someone who still has ideas. Not for someone who is still willing to grow. And as I closed my laptop and headed to bed, I realized the truth. The real victory wasn't the money. It wasn't the recognition. It wasn't even the family healing. The real victory was this. After 67 years, I had finally become someone worth listening to, and I finally believed it.